Good morning. Hey, good morning. Day 3. Let's get ready to rock and roll a little bit today. We've got if you thought the first 2 days were good, we've got a powerful lineup today. I'm greatly looking forward to all of the speakers this morning. We are going to have Governor Hoeven, or Governor Burgum, will be here at 10 o'clock. Former Governor Hoeven and now U.S. Senator Hoeven is going to do a video here in about 10 seconds. But thank you again for being here today. You know, you build these agendas and certain things happen and we make adjustments, and we have 76 speakers and obviously 76 extremely busy people. So we've kind of cobbled together some lineups and made some changes and shifts. And but this morning, I think we have just an absolutely phenomenal lineup. We're going to hear from my very good friends from Israel here in a minute. And then, of course, Halliburton is not, instead of talking about the amount of oil in a DSU, we're now talking about foot by foot. And that's what Halliburton's going to talk about. How do we get more barrels out of every foot in the Bakken? It's just a phenomenal transformation of what we've seen. And then, of course, we're going to hear maybe one of Lynn Helms' last Ole and Lena jokes. And then back by popular demand, many of you were not in the room for the 5 billion barrel celebration, but we're going to play that video about how we got here right after the break. And then Governor Doug Burgum will be here. And then, of course, Harold Hamm and Kathy Nessett and Bruce Restetter, followed by a video by Donald Trump made just for you. And then Danny Brown and Todd Sloss and I are going to have a discussion, and then we'll adjourn. And our friends from Israel are going to hold a truth of the Hamas and Israel war report up in rooms 101 and 102. So with that, these two gentlemen need no introductions. We're going to play their videos back to back. Please give it up for U.S. Senator John Hoeven and U.S. Senator Kevin Kramer.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me to your annual conference. It's a pleasure to speak to you today. North Dakota fulfills a central role in providing the low-cost, reliable energy that American homes and businesses rely on. That's due in large part to the hard work of our oil and gas industry in the Bakken. Thank you to everyone gathered here for your contributions to our quality of life and economy. As a member of the U.S. Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, I'm working every single day to support your success now and into the future. That means building a legal, tax, and regulatory environment that promotes innovation and investment, just like we did in North Dakota. Doing so will restore U.S. energy security and keep prices low for consumers. To this end, we're pushing back on the administration's costly and burdensome Green New Deal agenda. Instead of locking away taxpayer-owned lands and minerals, we're working to realize the full potential of our nation's abundant energy resources, including our vast oil and gas reserves. I'm sponsoring legislation to provide regulatory relief and reform our nation's permitting process so we can produce more energy and build the infrastructure needed to get energy to market. That's how we can fight inflation while strengthening our economic and national security. These are just some of our efforts to ensure a robust domestic energy industry. Thank you again for the invitation and your continued hard work towards these important goals. Best wishes for an enjoyable and productive event.
Greetings to all of you at the Williston Basin Petroleum Conference. Man, do I wish I could be with you. But then again, I'd rather be almost anywhere than stuck here in the swamp. That said, I'm so glad you're all coming together, share ideas, share best practices, get caught up on what's going on in the Bakken, what's going on nationwide, what's going on in our world. It all affects us, and what we do, what you do, affects the world. And thank you for all that you do to provide the energy for a growing economy and a peaceful country. Wouldn't it be nice if we'd use those peaceful tools to keep peace in the world? And that's really what's at stake for so many places. And more of our oil and gas being produced in North Dakota and throughout the United States is better for Israel, it's better for Ukraine, it's better for Taiwan, it's certainly better for the United States of America. But this administration and so many Democrats today want to transfer their climate guilt by exporting it to polluting countries. The onslaught of regulations and rules coming from the administration right now, no doubt you've noticed, especially just in the last few weeks. But just since January, there were 14 new rules in January, 14 new rules in February, 25 new rules in March, 42 new rules in April. That's just this year as they try to Trump-proof the Biden agenda. All of that said, Senator Hoeven, Congressman Armstrong, and I continue to be in the fight for you and with you, and thank you so much for everything that you do for us to help us be well informed and to share the good news of what North Dakota is doing. I wish I could be there with you. Like I said, I'd love networking. I'd love to see you and share some stories. But maybe next time. If not, I'm certain I'll see you along the way as I visit the state, as I visit the various little communities throughout western North Dakota, as I attend conferences, and of course do a little bit of that politicking thing. Maybe, you never know. With that, have a great rest of the conference, and hope to see you on the trail. God bless you.
Thank you to our senators, and they really, truly do wish they were here. I will guarantee you. They love speaking to you, and they both wanted to be here so bad. So at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce some of our great friends from the Council for Secure America this morning. The Council for Secure America, or CSA as we know them, is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that educates you on U.S. energy security, the Abraham Accords, and the strategic alliance between the United States and Israel. Myself, Harold Ham, Chris Wright, Blue Halsey, Brent Sanford, we're all either on the board of the CSA or we're heavily engaged with the CSA as we bring them here for tours and things that they will talk about America's energy industry. This group truly supports American oil and gas. Jennifer Sutton serves as the Executive Director for the Council for Secure America. Her primary role is to educate American Jewish leaders on the value and the importance of U.S. energy security, the Abraham Accords, and the strategic alliance between the United States and Israel. Since October 7th, Jennifer has spearheaded a CSA war room focusing on strategic analysis and education. Jennifer lives in New York City, and I think this is her 6th visit to North Dakota as our guest. Matt Most is a co-chair of the Council for Secure America, implementing the organization's strategic plan. Matt recently retired from Ovintiv as Vice President of Government Relations, where Matt and his team were responsible for U.S. policy initiatives and government relationships. Matt, in his role with Ovintiv, served on the North Dakota Petroleum Council Board of Directors. Please give Matt and Jennifer a big Bakken welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for that introduction, Ron. I am Matt Most, and I did recently retire from Ovintiv. But today here, I'm focused on both my oil and gas community, all of you, as well as my Jewish community. I'm here to tell you about how the work you do every day makes the world a safer place. Our industry provides very conveniences, innovations, and necessities of life. That reality is being challenged by increasingly loud voices who envision a world without oil and gas. And that's the reason why we almost engage to make sure oil and gas fits into a future that brings modern life and a healthy environment to more people rather than less. And this is because affordable energy makes everything else affordable. When we don't have it, the environment suffers. And finally, we aren't secure if our energy isn't. So though energy affordability, a clean environment, and energy security are all equally critical, today we'll focus on energy security. And this is because, yet again, today is a time of war in the Middle East, and this is significant for all of us. 50 years ago last October, Israel was invaded from the north and south simultaneously by Egypt and Syria. In 1973, Israel was a 25-year-old country of only 3 million people, not the startup nation that we know today. It had dramatically survived a massive invasion from all of its neighbors through a preemptive attack just 6 years earlier that increased the tiny country to include the Sinai Peninsula in the south, the Golan Heights in the north, and the west bank of the Jordan River. In October 1973, Egypt and Syria tried to regain the territory they had lost in the '67 war and destroy Israel completely. Now, Israel is unique in many ways. Like the U.S., Israel is one of a few countries founded on an idea. The U.S. is an experiment in democracy where all people are created equal. Israel is the critical homeland for Jewish people, something that history has proven to be sadly essential. That invasion that Israel faced in 1973 was both a surprise and overwhelming. It came on the Yom Kippur holiday, the holiest day of the year when Jewish people refrain from work and attend synagogue. It was a surprise, leaving inadequate time to mobilize reserves. In the Sinai Peninsula, 100,000 Egyptian soldiers overwhelmed 450 Israeli soldiers. 1,350 Egyptian tanks attacked land defended by only 290 Israeli tanks. In the Golan Heights in the north, 3,000 Israeli soldiers held off 28,000 Syrian troops, and the Syrians utilized 800 tanks, and the Israelis met them with only 180. Both the Egyptians and Syrians were backed by the Soviets, creating a Cold War crisis. As the only democracy in the region, Israel was a U.S. ally and backed by U.S. military support. This backing was limited since President Nixon could not risk another proxy war with the Soviets as he was trying to exit Vietnam. But there was another complexity that should matter a lot to all of us in this room. In 1973, the world total oil market was 45 million barrels per day, and about 15 million barrels were consumed here in the U.S. In 1973, U.S. imports of crude oil were 6 million barrels per day. More than 83% of those imports came from Middle Eastern Arab producers. Given our energy situation, we were hugely dependent on Israel's enemies in 1973, and the Nixon administration faced great risk to help Israel fight off its invaders. During the first few days of the war, Egypt and Syria secured victories in the Sinai and in the Golan. In the south, Egyptian forces crossed the Suez Canal and overran the Israelis. The Israelis did not fare much better in the north in the Golan. Israeli positions in the eastern Golan fell to the Syrian army. With a lack of tanks and troops, Israelis withdrew. Things looked bleak. There was speculation that Israel would use its unacknowledged nuclear capability as a last resort. By October 9, despite holding off invaders at great cost, Israel could not take the offensive without securing an adequate supply of military equipment. In response to Israeli losses, the U.S. government commenced an airlift of critical military equipment. U.S. assistance replenished Israeli forces, and Israel launched an offensive that retook most of the territory lost and even made significant gains. Arab producers responded to the airlift with a total oil embargo against the United States and other countries that supported Israel. The embargo banned both oil exports and cut production. As a result, the price of oil doubled, then quadrupled. The embargo contributed to the recession that gripped the United States from 1973 to 1975. The U.S. had to negotiate an end to the embargo from a very weak position. The lost decade in the economic wilderness did not end until Reagan's economic reforms. And I'm telling you this story because the history is critical to our story. Thanks to all of you, today we find ourselves in a very, very different world. In 2015, we fought for and secured the right to export U.S. crude oil to the world. Today, we're the world's largest exporter of refined petroleum products, and we're also the largest exporter of liquefied natural gas. Because of the strength of our energy production, we cannot be leveraged by our enemies or punished for defending our allies through energy ransom. When Russia invaded Ukraine, our foreign policy was not hampered by energy dependencies. The U.S. had the latitude to arm Ukraine without fear of Russia holding the world economic hostage through cuts in oil production or exports. It is the strength our industry provides that allows the U.S. to stop aggression rather than be powerless to see it spread. Before Hamas attacked in October, the Yom Kippur War was considered the costliest in human lives of Israel's wars and a historic intelligence failure. The 10/7 attack was an echo of the past. was also a surprise attack on a Jewish holiday, Simchas Torah, one of the happiest celebrations of the calendar. Hamas killed 4 times the Israelis as a percentage of population than 9/11 did in the United States. More Jews died in one day than any day since the Holocaust. 14 Americans were counted among the dead, and the count goes on. Hundreds of Israelis were captured to be used as human shields. Hamas did not only target military infrastructure, they targeted elderly at bus stops and music fans at a concert. The shocking brutality of Israel's enemies set a standard for modern warfare, more recognizable in the first century than the 21st. Israel is a tiny country where everyone lost a loved one on 10/7. Please don't turn away from their stories. Let them be a lesson for what can happen, but also an inspiration to our work. In January, I had the opportunity to travel to Israel, a place I visit whenever I can. I wanted to witness for myself how a country I love is responding to this moment. I wanted to thank friends for their heroism and deliver a hug in person. I also wanted to do what we're doing right now, come home and share what I learned with you. I came face to face with the very people, our allies, that we can help because you made us energy independent. I witnessed bravery, that powerful combination of strength and fearlessness. Israelis are known for bravado, earned through a history of beating the odds. I repeatedly found bravery to back up that bravado with modern heroes. And one example is the folks I met in Kerem Shalom, a tiny community in a very, very unfriendly corner of the world. It borders Egypt on the west and Gaza on the north. This agricultural kibbutz has only 90 residents. In Hebrew, it means vineyard of peace. I'm no military expert, but defending this place is unimaginable. Their civil protection plan called for residents to defend the community for 30 minutes before being relieved by the army. When Hamas broke through the wall that morning, the 8-member community defense team with 4 IDF soldiers who happened to be in the area held off hundreds of Hamas for 6 hours. In the end, 4 were dead, but the village was saved. And as we listened to their story, bombs in Gaza rattled the windows, an unsettling noise they refer to as the sounds of peace. On my trip, I also encountered courage, which is a powerful combination of facing your fears and standing up for what's right. Courage is on display daily in Hostage Square, which is the location in Tel Aviv where families of hostages come to tell their stories and call for hostage rescue to be a top military priority. This is where I met 17-year-old Natalie of Kibbutz Be'eri. Natalie's mother and father were taken hostage on 10/7 as she hid in a safe room. She comes to Hostage Square to not let anyone forget her struggle. Her mother was released, but her father remains to this day in Gaza, where her brother serves in the Israeli Defense Forces. I hugged her and let her know as a father that I know her father is intensely proud of her courage. And finally, I also encountered service. This is Itai. Itai was an Israel emissary to the U.S. for 4 years, serving in Colorado. He and his wife became good friends to me and my wife in their time in the U.S. After 10/7, his reaction was to join the Phoenix Battalion, a group of older reservists who pulled older out-of-service tanks back into the theater to join the war effort. Itai's gotten a bit older and a bit chubbier than his days as a tank commander, but this did not stop him from joining the effort to do his part, even when he has already completed his duty long, long ago. This sense of service is present everywhere in Israel today. So why am I telling you about what's going on in Israel? Well, it's because Iran remains the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. On October 7, the Iranians and their proxies took the Palestinian-Israeli conflict to a new level. But like in Ukraine, the U.S. had the latitude to respond because of American oil and natural gas. We have sent our troops, our carriers, our missiles. without fear that Iran can bring down our economy. As we move forward to produce the energy the world needs, it is important not only where that energy is delivered, but where it is made. We need all energy types, but we really need American energy that makes us safer. As new energy technologies are deployed, it is critical that we do not exchange our oil dependencies of the past on unfriendly governments with new renewable energy dependency on other unfriendly governments. We here are all players in the geopolitical chess game. U.S. oil and natural gas that makes the world a safer place. If this sounds like it's personal to me, please know that it is. I'm deeply proud of all of you and proud to be one of you. All of us must use every opportunity to explain the value of oil and natural gas brings to the world, how we defeat poverty through affordable energy, how we make the environment cleaner through innovation, and finally, how we make the world a safer place through energy security. So now, Jen Sutton, the Executive Director for Council for Secure America, will share how we educate on the importance of energy security and the work you do every day. Council for Secure America is a unique convening body of pro-Israel and pro-domestic energy champions. And so now, here's Jen.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you to Ron Ness and the North Dakota Petroleum Council for hosting us on this auspicious occasion. Let me take you back to where I was on October 7th. You can see in this photo, it's October 6th. I'm on what's supposed to be a tranquil vacation with my husband in Istanbul, Turkey. Here we are outside of the Blue Mosque. I had no idea that less than 24 hours later, I would be holed up in my hotel room, commencing what became the Israel-Hamas war room for CSA. Notably, my first phone calls were not from whom I expected. Brent Sanford, Ron Ness, our friends at Continental, so many friends in the oil and gas community called me, how can we help? What could we do? This was a testament to the relationships and the bridges that CSA has been building between the pro-Israel community and the pro-domestic energy community in the United States. On April 13th of 2024, the Islamic Republic of Iran launched 320 missiles at the state of Israel. Notably, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan were intercepting those missiles. Now, why does this matter? Well, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has never maintained any formal diplomatic relations with Israel, and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, which shares a border with Israel, it's pretty frosty since the war began. And why did they do this? Why were they behind this US-led coalition? The answer is simple. Our relationships in the Middle East have changed thanks to American oil and gas, and thanks to the Abraham Accords. For those who are unfamiliar, the Abraham Accords are the normalization agreements between Israel, the Kingdom of Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and the Kingdom of Morocco that were brokered by President Trump and Secretary Mike Pompeo. They changed the Middle East as we know it, and we would not have been possible without the role of American energy. By no longer being encumbered by our need for Arab oil, America can stand strong and support our allies during this critical time of need. Again, energy security is national security, and the work that all of you in this room have done to fortifying America through having our own domestic supply chain has made this all possible and has allowed America to support its allies during its greatest time of need. CSA has long been a champion for promoting the notion that energy security is national security, working with luminaries like Secretary Mike Pompeo, who joined the CSA Advisory Board shortly after leaving office. Again, a champion of American energy and a champion of the US-Israel relationship, and more so, the Abraham Accords that manifested from both of these variables. CSA has also been privileged to work with a number of critical decision makers in the diplomatic world. We've built relationships with the Kingdom of Bahrain. Here we are at a board dinner in April of 2022, which led to a historic visit last summer with some of our oil and gas friends on the CSA board, where we were hosted in Bahrain, and this is us with the foreign minister. But again, why does any of this matter to this room? Terror costs money, and Iran is funding this war through its oil revenues. 70% of Iranian government revenues come from their oil sales, and notably, China purchases 90% of that oil. Now, let me walk you through, for those who are unfamiliar, we're going to be doing a war report later at the end of the conference, but I just want to walk you through some of the proxy warfare that Iran is doing. So you see here, Iran is the top of the org chart, and they're funding Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza and the West Bank, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which is a militant group that is famous for, unfortunately, tons of homicide and suicide bombings in the Middle East. The Houthis, 1,000 miles away in Yemen. This is like North Dakota going to war with Texas. There is no territorial dispute of any kind. Nonetheless, the Houthis are holding the global supply chain hostage as a manifestation of Iran's terror. And Kata'ib Hezbollah in Iraq, who are directly attacking American servicemen and women who are serving overseas, proudly defending our country. But again, this goes beyond terrorist attacks in the region. The Houthis are holding the global supply chain hostage. What would normally take 19 days to pass goods and services through the Red Sea from Asia to Europe now takes over 31 days because they need to go around the coast of South Africa. Again, this is affecting the price of goods, the delay of goods. All of these things would not be possible without Iranian terror money that is coming from their oil revenues. CSA has long been a champion that American energy makes Americans safe. We take notable groups of pro-Israel groups to Oklahoma and to North Dakota, where we sit down with some of the luminaries in this state and hear their stories about why the role that you all play in the Basin fortifies America and makes us safer. We're privileged to work with partners like North Dakota Petroleum Council, Continental, DEPA, and Devon, and so many others who, again, have stood with Israel during this terrible time of need, but more so have continued to make America safe. This is a moment where energy security is not only a bipartisan issue, but it's an American issue. And CSA is privileged to work with members on both sides of the aisle to articulate the critical need for American oil and gas in fortifying the United States. So why CSA? Why does any of this matter? Well, first off, my tremendous thank you to everyone in this room for making America safer. CSA is fortunate to work with a convening body of some of luminaries in the pro-Israel space and the pro-energy space to educate on the importance of these issues and stand with each other when things become difficult. This is a link to our war report, which we'll be presenting later on, which was commissioned specifically for people in this room and has been used around the country as a resource for understanding how energy has played a role in this war. We encourage you to join us, join our programs, and again, tremendous thank you to all of you for making America safer. We're deeply appreciative of your friendship. Thank you.
There's one group, when Jen brings all of these top Jewish Americans here and all of the operators who provide tours for us, it's been fantastic to bring these great folks to North Dakota, but the folks at the Triple Tree, how have they done it?
Oh my goodness, I didn't even see Fred Evans. Thank you guys. I will
Here,
say,
speaking of this.
as a native New Yorker, I am the biggest evangelist for North Dakota. And all my friends are like, this is ridiculous. What are you doing in North Dakota? I said, you need to come here and see what they're doing in the Basin and how to fix our day-to-day. And every time I talk about the work that so many of you do, and Ron really is a champion of that, and he's a dear friend who came with me to Israel almost 8 years ago, seeing what happened on October 7th and seeing the people of North Dakota issue a statement and be part of that conversation, from the heart, I can't tell you how deeply appreciative we are and how excited we are to continue to work with you on these formative issues. So thank you so much, Ron, for your hospitality. And we'll be hitting up the war report for those who want to join us later today. And look forward to working with many of you who I don't know yet. So thank you so much, Ron.
Thanks,
I
Jen.
appreciate you.
45-minute war report up in room 101, 102. It'll be fantastic.
Thank
So.
you guys.